Okay, so today we are starting with a comprehensive look at a figure whose influence on modern culture, commerce, and political conversation is, well, it's truly unprecedented.
It really is. I mean, this isn't just a person who hosts a show.
Oh, no.
He is the operational force behind what has been, since 2020, the single most streamed program on Spotify, the world's largest audio platform.
And we are, of course, examining the sprawling biography and career of Joseph James Rogan Jr.
The scale of his current stature really demands this kind of investigation. When you look at the business dynamics alone, the facts are just staggering.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the host who secured that massive licensing deal with Spotify in 2020. The initial estimates put it at around $200 million.
And what truly sets the stage for understanding his power in 2026 is the renegotiation of that deal. Because in 2024, the contract was renewed for an estimated $250 million.
But here's the critical detail.
Right.
The show is no longer exclusive to Spotify.
That shift from a $200 million exclusive deal to a $250 million non-exclusive one, that speaks volumes.
It says everything about his leverage in the media ecosystem today. It means Rogan, or at least his team, was able to demand more money while at the same time regaining full control of his distribution.
So he can be on YouTube, he can be anywhere else he wants.
Exactly. In an era where media giants are fighting tooth and nail for content exclusivity, achieving non-exclusivity for a premium price, that is a structural power move that few, if any, other individual creators could ever command.
So our mission today is to move beyond those headlines and really understand how this multi-hyphenate figure, the comedian, color commentator, actor, host, was forged.
We need to connect the dots.
Yes. Between his origins in Newark, New Jersey, and his current status as a pivotal cultural force. He was born on August 11th, 1967, which puts him at 58 in the context of our source material, and we want you, the learner, to grasp the full, complex narrative.
The sheer number of career paths he's navigated is remarkable. It's a story defined by movement, by conflict, and by this constant search for structure, which is evident right from the very start.
Let's start there with those foundational years. The family heritage, it includes an Irish paternal grandfather and 3 Italian grandparents. But what really defined his early life wasn't heritage, it was disruption.
Instability, for sure. His parents divorced when he was just 5 years old.
And the contact with his father, who was an architect, it just stopped completely by the time Rogan was 7.
Right, and those missing years, they still had an impact.
The specific memory Rogan has carried into adulthood about his father is characterized by what he recalls as brief, violent flashes of domestic violence.
This is a heavy thing to carry.
It is, but what's psychologically interesting, as the sources note, is that he is explicit in stating he doesn't hate the guy or carry resentment. He says he doesn't feel a need to complain about his childhood.
And that nuance is key. He acknowledges the violence, but he doesn't let it define his emotional future. It suggests an early, maybe almost enforced, ability to compartmentalize or just move past conflict.
And compounding that emotional instability was physical displacement. The family moved a lot.
All over the country.
From his birth in Newark, they relocated to San Francisco when he was 7, then to Gainesville, Florida at age 11.
Before finally settling in Newton Upper Falls, Massachusetts, that's where he graduated from Newton South High School in 1985.
So you have 3 major cross-country moves between the ages of 7 and 18.
That constant relocation, the instability and the need to reset and redefine yourself over and over again, that must have fueled his internal state.
It seems so. He later recounted a self-described feeling from childhood of being terrified of being a loser.
And that fear, that acute awareness of needing to prove himself, that's the perfect psychological backdrop for martial arts entering his life.
It became his salvation, a mechanism he actively sought out to instill confidence and really fundamentally change how he saw himself.
And it wasn't a casual hobby. He started karate at age 14, then quickly moved to Taekwondo a year later, at 15.
The training was intense. It provided this structured, meritocratic environment that was a sharp contrast to the chaos of his early family life.
And that's where he found hope. Hope that he wasn't going to be a loser.
The results were immediate and very high level. By the age of 19, he won the U.S. Open Championship Taekwondo tournament. as a lightweight.
Think about that. A national title by the time he was barely out of high school.
He also dominated locally. He was a Massachusetts full-contact state champion for 4 consecutive years.
He became so proficient, he started teaching, he became an instructor, and this is where he really developed that deep intellectual and physical connection to fighting that would later define his role in the UFC.
So if he was that successful, why did he leave the competitive world so young? He retired from amateur kickboxing, where he had a respectable 2-1 record at just 21.
The reason was very pragmatic and serious. He was getting frequent headaches and had a real fear of sustaining worse long-term injuries.
So it was a clear-eyed assessment of risk versus reward.
Exactly. It was a decision that ended his competitive path, but it freed up that intense, disciplined energy to be channeled into his next obsession. Comedy. It's a crucial early pivot where self-preservation dictates a career change.
Before stand-up truly took hold, there was a brief detour into formal education and a string of odd jobs. He attended the University of Massachusetts, Boston.
But not for long. The sources indicate he quickly grew disinterested, calling the whole thing pointless before dropping out.
That word pointless is telling. It suggests a rejection of theoretical learning that lacked any tangible application.
It aligns perfectly with the very physical and practical focus of his martial arts life. He was looking for real-world applicable skills, not lecture halls.
And to make ends meet while he was pursuing comedy, his employment history was this fascinating mix.
Right. Manual and unconventional labor. He delivered newspapers, drove a limousine, worked construction.
And he kept teaching martial arts, both at Boston University and in Revere.
And, in one of the more surprising details, he assisted a private investigator.
This background in physical labor, self-defense teaching, and investigative work, it just contrasts so sharply with the world of Hollywood he was about to enter.
It reinforces the image of someone who was willing to, scratch and grind, focusing on practical necessity while nurturing this artistic ambition.
And that desire to make a living is what eventually led him, almost accidentally, into comedy. The source material shows he initially had no intention of becoming a professional comic.
No, not at all. His start in stand-up was purely organic.
Yeah.
He was known for making his friends from the martial arts gym and his taekwondo school laugh with impressions and jokes.
And it was they who convinced him to try an open mic night.
The artistic inspiration, though, that came from a major cultural moment. Richard Pryor's special, live on the Sunset Strip.
Rogan said it affected him in such a profound way that nothing had ever made him laugh like that before. It really provided the template for the kind of raw, boundary-pushing comedy he would try to emulate.
And that first gig wasn't spontaneous. He spent 6 months in dedicated preparation, honing the material and practicing his delivery before he finally took the stage.
August 27, 1988, at age 21, at an open mic in Boston.
That 6 months of prep, it just echoes the discipline he learned in the dojo. You don't just show up, you train relentlessly.
His initial style was firmly rooted in blue comedy.
Right. For listeners who might not be familiar, this refers to material that's often explicit, profane, and focuses heavily on taboo topics.
That kind of content led him toward unconventional early venues like strip clubs and bachelor parties.
Performing in those environments where the audience is often drunk, hostile, or totally distracted, that's a crucible for a comic.
It forces you to be confrontational, sharp, constantly adaptable.
Traits that we see resurface later when he's confronting political figures or other comedians.
The crucial managerial connection arrived quickly. He met talent manager Jeff Sussman at a Boston comedy club.
And Sussman saw just a 5-minute routine, liked the aggressive style, and offered to manage him on the spot. That relationship would prove critical for his move into television.
Before that move, it's worth noting his cited influences: Richard Jenius, Lenny Bruce, Sam Kinison, and Bill Hicks.
That list is a lineage of comics who are often raw, challenging, and deeply philosophical. They used comedy to question societal norms, which aligns perfectly with the future direction of his long-form conversations.
The big geographic pivot to Los Angeles happened in 1994, and it paid off immediately. He got his first national TV spot on MTV's half-hour comedy hour.
But it's here that we see his first major strategic business decision regarding media.
MTV offered him a 3-year exclusive contract. It included developing a game show pilot for just $500.
And he declined the offer. He opted instead to let his manager shop his tapes around, which sparked a small bidding war.
He ended up accepting a development deal with the Disney Network.
That choice declining the security of an MTV contract for a broader, potentially riskier path with Disney. It shows an early preference for control and higher upside over immediate locked-in earnings.
That Disney deal quickly led to his first major acting role, the 9-episode Fox sitcom Hardball in 1994. He played Frank Valente, a young, ego-driven baseball player.
And the hiring process, as he described it, was very telling. He claimed he told a Disney executive, if you can lie, you can act.
Which suggests he had a low-effort, almost cynical view of the craft from the very start.
That cynicism only intensified during his next and much longer sitcom run. From 1995 to 1999, he played the electrician Joe Gorelli on the NBC sitcom NewsRadio.
A surprising detail is that he replaced Ray Romano after only one rehearsal.
He worked closely with the writers to develop the character, but he openly admitted later that the character was a very dumbed-down, censored version of his true self.
He grew bored with it, playing the same character every week, he said. He saw the work primarily as an easy, financially secure job that funded his true passion.
And his true passion was always stand-up. He conceded that NewsRadio was a dream gig because it provided stability and earnings, which allowed him to continuously refine his stand-up material without financial stress.
It was a means to an end.
That period also contained profound personal tragedy. He befriended his castmate, Phil Hartman, and knowing of his marital issues, Rogan claimed he urged Hartman to divorce his wife 5 different times. Hartman's murder in 1998 had a massive impact on Rogan.
He canceled a full week of scheduled stand-up gigs, which just underscores how deep their friendship was.
While his acting career secured his finances, his commitment to live comedy was deepening. He began performing at the Comedy Store in Hollywood and was eventually hired as a paid regular by the legendary owner Mitzi Shore.
But the financial arrangement at the Comedy Store was far from standard.
Not at all. Rogan claimed he performed there for 13 years for free.
Instead, he opted to pay for and install the club's new, expensive sound system,
which reveals a profound commitment to the community and the venue itself. He prioritized the quality of the stage and the experience for other comics over his own immediate earnings. It was an investment.
This period culminated in the release of his first album, I'm Gonna Be Dead Someday. It was recorded during 2 shows in Boston in December 1999 and released the following August.
And it gained significant exposure, not only through traditional channels like The Howard Stern Show, but also through early digital disruption downloads via Napster.
The turn of the millennium marks a major transition into 2 seemingly disparate worlds that would cement his visibility. The niche, burgeoning world of mixed martial arts, and the hyper-mainstream spectacle of reality TV.
The UFC connection is rooted in his martial arts foundation. His interest sparked years before he joined the organization, specifically in 1994 when he watched Royce Gracie compete at UFC 2.
That experience immediately drew him to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
His first official job for the UFC came in 1997 as a backstage and post-fight interviewer at UFC 12. He quit after only 2 years, though.
Why did he quit?
He quit because the role wasn't sustainable. His salary didn't cover the cost of traveling to the often remote, rural locations where the events were held in those early days.
Again, we see him demonstrating a pragmatic awareness of financial viability.
But his passion for the sport was clearly known. When Zuffa purchased the UFC in 2001, the new president, Dana White, reached out, offering him a job as a color commentator.
And Rogan initially declined.
He did. He was comfortable financially and just wanted to enjoy the sport. He famously said he just wanted to go to the fights and drink.
But White was persistent.
Very. He recognized Rogan's deep knowledge and charismatic energy. So in 2002, White made a highly unconventional offer.
He hired Rogan for free, initially paying him only in prime event tickets for himself and his friends.
And Rogan agreed to this for about 15 free gigs. The fact that he was willing to trade his expertise for access and enjoyment just underscores how genuine his connection to MMA was.
Eventually, he did accept pay for the commentary role, working alongside Mike Goldberg until 2016, a partnership that really defined the sound of the UFC for a generation of fans.
And his excellence in the commentator booth was consistently recognized. He won the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Award for Best Television Announcer twice and claimed the MMA Personality of the Year award multiple times.
He brought this infectious blend of technical insight and pure excitement to the broadcast, appealing to both the hardcore fan and the casual viewer.
Running parallel to this niche role was the spectacular mainstream exposure of Fear Factor.
Right. He hosted the American edition from 2001 to 2006 and then came back for a final season in 2011.
He initially hesitated, rejecting the job because he genuinely believed NBC would never actually air the show's graphic and often repulsive challenges.
So his motivation for taking the job was purely utilitarian for his main career. stand-up comedy.
Exactly. He accepted the role primarily to accumulate observations and anecdotes for his acts. He treated the show as paid fieldwork into human absurdity.
But the outcome was far greater than just new material. Fear Factor dramatically increased his national exposure, putting his face and voice in front of millions of mainstream viewers.
And the direct consequence was a massive boost in attendance at his stand-up gigs.
In the middle of all this success, there's this extraordinary anecdote that perfectly illustrates his commitment to the physical world. The 2005 challenge from actor Wesley Snipes.
Yes. Snipes, a known martial arts enthusiast, challenged Rogan to a cage fight.
And Rogan didn't just laugh it off or dismiss it.
No, he committed 5 months of intense training, preparing for a legitimate, high-stakes fight against a major action movie star.
Snipes ultimately backed out. Rogan believed it was due to the actor needing a quick payout, potentially related to his pending IRS investigation for tax evasion.
The sheer seriousness with which Rogan approached this celebrity challenge just highlights the indelible role martial arts plays in his self-identity.
Following the initial run of Fear Factor, Rogan admitted he felt lazy and uninspired by the routine of TV work and deliberately refocused his energy back on stand-up.
And this intense dedication to his craft led to one of the most volatile and famous confrontations in modern comedy history.
We're talking about the infamous 2007 confrontation with fellow comedian Carlos Mencia.
This wasn't a spontaneous eruption. It was the climax of years of tension. Rogan had been publicly accusing Mencia of joke thievery since 1993, long before it was a viral topic.
He escalated the claims with a detailed blog post in 2005, providing specific examples of Mencia allegedly stealing material from other comics.
And the showdown happened on stage at the Comedy Store in February 2007.
Rogan walked onto the stage during Mencia's set and just confronted him directly.
The entire incident was captured on video, uploaded to YouTube, and the subsequent sharing of evidence and comments from other figures like George Lopez and Ari Shaffir turned it into a massive cultural event.
The professional consequences were immediate and severe. His talent agency expelled him because they also managed Mencia.
And he was banned from the Comedy Store, the very venue he had invested in years earlier, by buying their sound system.
Yet the sources note a profound inverse reaction within the comedy community.
Right. Rogan later stated that every single comic he spoke to was thankful for the confrontation. They saw it as necessary action against intellectual property theft that had plagued the industry.
He quickly signed with a new agency, William Morris, solidifying his reputation as a defender of comedy integrity, even at a personal professional cost.
He did take other, less impactful TV roles during this period. He co-hosted The Man Show from 2003 to 2004, but left due to disagreements with Comedy Central over censorship.
He also hosted Game Show in My Head in 2009, produced by Ashton Kutcher. He openly called it a completely mindless form of entertainment.
But he found the underlying concept of social manipulation intriguing enough to participate. Again, the motivation isn't a love for the TV medium, but an interest in the underlying human dynamics.
All of these experiences, the athletic discipline, the physical confrontation, the comedic grind, the UFC commentary, the TV success and disillusionment, they all culminate in the true genesis of his current cultural phenomenon.
Yes. We are turning the page now to the launch of the venture that defined the structure of 21st century media, the Joe Rogan Experience.
It launched so quietly, December 2009, with fellow comedian Brian Redban.
The initial format is almost laughably casual considering its current corporate stature. It was a free, live weekly broadcast on Ustream.
He described it simply as him and Redban sitting in front of laptops bullshitting. There was no corporate strategy or marketing plan. It was purely organic, driven by the desire for long-form, uncensored conversation.
And that casual, long-form approach proved to be revolutionary. The growth was explosive. By August 2010, it was formally named the Joe Rogan Experience, and it had already cracked the top 100 on iTunes.
It was picked up by SiriusXM in 2011. The acceleration truly underscores the hunger for this type of content.
By January 2015, the show was pulling in 11 million monthly downloads. By October of that same year, it had surged to 16 million downloads per month.
That velocity created the scenario for the massive corporate deals we discussed earlier. The 2020 multi-year licensing agreement with Spotify, valued at that estimated $200 million,
made the show exclusive to Spotify starting in January 2021. This meant video stopped being uploaded directly to YouTube, which frustrated many longtime listeners who preferred that platform.
Non-exclusivity was the central axis of the relationship for 4 years. But the renewal in 2024 for an estimated $250 million marked a fundamental reversal. The show will no longer be exclusive to Spotify.
And this is a monumental shift in the power dynamic. When Rogan signed the exclusive deal, he traded audience reach for guaranteed massive financial security.
But now,
By signing the non-exclusive deal, he retains the massive payment and regains his ability to distribute widely across multiple platforms, maximizing his total audience and influence. It shows how critical he is to Spotify's platform viability that they were willing to pay a premium to lose exclusivity.
beyond the show itself, we need to look at his major business ventures. Starting with Onnit, the supplements and fitness company he co-founded and frequently advertises.
Onnit achieved a massive financial milestone when it was sold to Unilever in 2021. This secured Rogan's financial future well beyond the Spotify deals. However, the venture hasn't been without controversy.
Right. In April 2024, a lawsuit was filed against Onnit. It alleged that its cognitive performance supplement, Alpha Brain, performed no better than a placebo in testing.
The suit argued the product was surrounded by false, misleading, and deceptive advertising. This legal entanglement highlights the scrutiny that arises when a media platform is used to heavily promote a co-owned commercial product.
And his influence isn't just digital or commercial, it's now physical, deeply rooted in his new home base of Austin, Texas.
In 2022, Rogan purchased and renovated the historic Ritz Theater, opening it as the comedy mothership in March 2023.
The source material is quite specific in characterizing this venue. They call it his anti-cancel culture club.
That label indicates that the club is designed to be a sanctuary for comedy, a place where comics can test boundaries and be provocative without fear of immediate public outcry, reflecting his strongly held beliefs about free speech. The club is as much a cultural statement as it is a business venture.
That brings us perfectly to the complex and often contradictory landscape of his evolving political and social views, many of which are debated daily on his platform.
He self-described his identity in 2020 as libertarian-leaning.
But that label doesn't neatly fit into a traditional party box. If we look at the specifics of his social views, they align with the left. He supports same-sex marriage, women's rights, the legalization of recreational drugs.
Universal healthcare, universal basic income.
Right. But there are powerful exceptions to that social liberalism that pull him sharply toward classical libertarianism and the right.
He's an outspoken supporter of gun rights and the Second Amendment. And, perhaps more central to his entire political identity, he champions absolute freedom of speech and is vehemently opposed to cancel culture, which he sees as an engine for suppressing dissenting views, particularly those from the right.
He also consistently criticizes American foreign policy rooted in military adventurism.
His history of political endorsements is fascinating because it seems to follow a specific ideological pattern rather than a party line.
In the 2012 Republican primary, he endorsed Ron Paul, calling him the only guy who is saying anything that makes any sense. Paul was known for his anti-war, anti-establishment stances.
Then, in the 2020 Democratic primary, he endorsed Bernie Sanders, another figure running on an anti-establishment, highly disruptive platform.
Stating, "I believe in him, I like him a lot." Later, in 2022, he also said Republican Ron DeSantis would be a good president.
The pattern is clear. His core affinity is for disruptive, anti-establishment, high individual agency figures, regardless of whether they're on the far left or the far right. It's less about policy and more about perceived authenticity.
This volatility and willingness to jump lines came to a head in the 2024 presidential election. In a highly consequential move, on November 4th, 2024, the day before the election, Rogan endorsed Donald Trump.
The timing was critical. He cited an appearance on his show a couple of days prior by Elon Musk, claiming Musk made a compelling case for Trump and that he agreed with him every step of the way.
The sources underscore the immense impact of this 11th hour backing. Trump's campaign viewed Rogan's endorsement as pivotal, leveraging his massive reach among young male and politically disengaged voters who typically bypass traditional media.
Rogan essentially provided a direct, non-traditional channel for an anti-establishment message, and his support was widely regarded by commentators as a decisive factor in securing Trump's victory.
A clear demonstration of the singular power of non-traditional media figures in shaping modern political outcomes.
Yet the narrative complexifies almost immediately post-election. Rogan quickly demonstrated that his loyalty is not rooted in party affiliation or even personal allegiance. to the figure he helped elect.
He became a vocal, personalized critic of several early Trump administration policies by March 2025.
For instance, in March 2025, he criticized Trump's feud with Canada, calling it stupid, and sharing an anecdote that Canadians had booed us over tariffs during sporting events.
By April 2025, he weighed in on immigration policies, specifically referring to the operation to deport immigrants to El Salvador as horrific.
Further discontent was aired in July 2025. He criticized the administration's handling of the Epstein files, mentioning Jeffrey Epstein over 40 times in one single episode.
He also criticized the policy to deport foreign students who are currently on college campuses.
And perhaps most significantly, in August 2025, he reversed a key Trump talking point, stating publicly that Trump had no evidence to support the claim of widespread election fraud in 2020.
This sustained post-election criticism confirms that Rogan's political compass is rooted in highly individualized reactions to policy and personality, rather than adherence to a political platform.
He acts as an unpredictable, independent force, criticizing power when he perceives it, crossing lines he finds unacceptable, regardless of who he endorsed.
Let's look at how this highly individualized political compass plays out on the global stage, starting with Canada. He has been highly critical of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau,
calling him a fucking dictator and Canada communist.
It's important to note the evolution of his opinion here. He had liked Trudeau prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. His views shifted based on Trudeau's implementation of pandemic policies, which Rogan perceived as authoritarian overreach.
Regarding the conflict in Europe, in November 2024, Rogan was clear that the Russian invasion of Ukraine was 100% wrong. However, he quickly pivoted to criticizing U.S. foreign policy.
Specifically, outgoing President Joe Biden for allowing Ukraine to strike mainland Russia with U.S.-supplied missiles.
He addressed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky directly in strong language, stating he was about to start World War III, underscoring his deep concern about military escalation and interventionism.
This specific commentary drew swift public backlash. Ukrainian boxing champion Vladimir Klitschko accused Rogan of repeating Russian propaganda and offered to debate him publicly on his show.
We observed a similar pattern of strong initial claims, followed by retraction concerning the Israel-Gaza conflict in March 2024. Rogan initially described Israel's actions in the Gaza Strip as a genocide.
However, days later, after interviewing political commentator Coleman Hughes, who presented a counter-perspective, Rogan openly acknowledged the nuance.
Right. He told Hughes, "You clearly know more about it than I do." This willingness to retract or moderate based on immediate input from an expert guest is a defining characteristic of his long-form conversational style.
Shifting to a more personal form of advocacy, Rogan is a massive proponent of psychedelics and consciousness exploration.
He supports the legalized use of cannabis, being an avid user himself, as well as LSD, psilocybin mushrooms, and DMT.
His interest is rooted in the belief that these substances facilitate the exploration and enhancement of consciousness and introspection.
This commitment was formalized when he presented the 2010 documentary DMT, The Spirit Molecule. Also central to his personal regime is his deep interest in sensory deprivation and isolation tanks.
He claims these personal experiences have been crucial in helping him explore his own consciousness and improve both his physical and mental performance.
Which reflects that foundational seeker identity we identified earlier, only now applied to neurobiology rather than martial arts.
We must now turn to the areas that have generated the most intense public and corporate conflict. His major controversies and the conflicts over misinformation, particularly surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic.
This period fundamentally tested his relationship with his platform provider, Spotify, and the wider medical community.
In April 2021, at the height of the vaccine rollout, Rogan publicly claimed that young, healthy people do not need to be vaccinated against COVID-19.
This prompted immediate and public criticism from high-profile figures, including Dr. Anthony Fauci and the White House.
Rogan was quick to walk back the comment, acknowledging there was some legitimate science behind Fauci's opposing view. And crucially, he made a public effort to emphasize that he is not a doctor and should not be taken as a respected source of information.
The controversy intensified in September 2021 when he tested positive for COVID-19 and disclosed his treatment regimen. This included monoclonal antibodies and prednisone, but it also included ivermectin,
an antiparasitic drug that medical experts largely consider ineffective against viral diseases like COVID-19.
The media coverage focused heavily on the ivermectin. Rogan specifically criticized CNN for repeatedly describing ivermectin as a horse dewormer.
And the subsequent appearance of CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, on his show led to a public concession. Gupta acknowledged that CNN should not have implied Rogan was taking a veterinary drug.
All of these individual incidents built toward a major crisis in early 2022. 270 scientists, physicians, and healthcare workers wrote an open letter to Spotify, urging them to implement a formal policy on moderating misinformation.
They specifically cited Rogan's episodes, particularly one featuring Robert W. Malone, who promoted vaccine misinformation.
The criticisms leveled against Malone's content were severe, including promoting conspiracy theories and the controversial comparison of pandemic policies to the Holocaust.
This crisis spilled into the music industry, where Spotify's core business lies.
Legendary musical artist Neil Young demanded that Spotify remove his music if they would not remove Rogan's show, arguing the platform had a responsibility to mitigate the spread of misinformation. Spotify ultimately removed Young's catalog.
Joni Mitchell followed suit in solidarity with the medical and scientific communities.
Rogan's public response was careful. He denied intentionally spreading misinformation, though he pledged to try to balance out these more controversial viewpoints in future episodes.
He also agreed with Spotify, adding a disclaimer to his videos whenever they touched upon scientific or medical topics.
However, almost immediately afterward, a separate scandal erupted.
Singer India Arie shared a video compilation showing Rogan repeatedly using a racial slur on older episodes of the show. This prompted Arie to also pull her music from Spotify.
Rogan issued a lengthy apology, calling his past language regretful and shameful. But he also claimed the clips were taken out of context and that he was typically quoting the slur to discuss its use by others.
He described the video compilation as a political hit job created by a liberal political action committee affiliate.
The consequence was the removal of 70 episodes that predated the COVID-19 pandemic. Spotify noted that Rogan selected these episodes himself following internal discussions about his history of using some racially insensitive language.
This entire ordeal led the video platform Rumble to make a public offer of $100 million for Rogan to switch platforms, an offer he ultimately declined.
His controversial views are not confined to health and race. He is an outspoken critic of transgender women competing in women's sports.
Often citing alleged biological advantages rooted in bone structure and joint size, bringing in examples like the swimmer Leah Thomas and the former martial artist Fallon Fox.
This stance draws directly from his deep history in competitive martial arts, where physical parameters are paramount. Yet he attempts to balance this by stating, "I believe in trans people,"
supporting an adult's right to choose what makes them happy.
He then immediately undercuts this with a characteristic duality, adding, "I also believe in crazy people." This allows him to hold both a socially liberal position and a biologically deterministic competitive viewpoint.
He has also promoted outright misinformation. In October 2022, he promoted the widely discredited hoax that public schools were providing litter boxes for students who dressed as cats.
Weeks later, he admitted there was no proof of actual litter boxes, but then falsely claimed that schools were at least discussing the idea.
In February 2023, he drew condemnation from the Anti-Defamation League for spreading what they termed vicious lies after commenting on Jewish people and money in defense of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
Rogan stated, "The idea that Jewish people are not into money is ridiculous. That's like saying Italians aren't into pizza."
And in 2024, during a February episode, he delved into AIDS denialism.
He promoted the debunked claim that party drugs like poppers were an important factor in the onset of AIDS and falsely claimed the antiviral drug AZT killed people quicker than AIDS itself.
The American Foundation for AIDS Research publicly criticized the show for disseminating false and harmful medical information.
Finally, in April 2025, he weighed in on linguistic and cultural shifts, claiming that the reemergence of the disability slur, the R word, into the mainstream is one of the greatest cultural victories that I think is spurred on probably by shows like this.
Moving to his personal life and current status, he married Jessica Ditzel, a former cocktail waitress, in 2009. They have 3 children, including 2 daughters born in 2008 and 2010, and his wife's daughter from a previous relationship.
In 2020, they moved from California to a sprawling $14 million home on Lake Austin in Austin, Texas. This move was framed as a deliberate escape from the regulatory environment of California, aligning with his political views.
A fun and little-known family fact is that he is a first cousin once removed of My Chemical Romance members Gerard Way and Mikey Way.
Though he has never actually met them, highlighting just how many cultural arenas his extended family touches.
His dedication to martial arts remains a defining element of his life. Despite retiring from competition at 21, he holds two distinct black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
A black belt under Eddie Bravo's 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, which is a specialized no-gi style, and also a black belt in the more traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Jean-Jacques Machado. Holding these two separate black belts underscores that his training is continuous and diverse, not merely ceremonial.
Regarding his faith, he was raised Catholic and later identified as agnostic. However, by 2025, he softened his previous stance and affirmed a belief in religion.
With a prominent Christian apologist claiming that Rogan now attends church every Sunday. We also note that he lives with vitiligo, a condition causing depigmentation of the skin visible on his hands and feet.
His level of fame today means he is an attractor for intense public behavior.
Absolutely. In June 2025, fitness influencer Liver King was arrested in Austin after making violent consecutive threats against Rogan on social media. It just demonstrates the extreme scrutiny and attention that surrounds him.
When we step back to synthesize his cultural impact, commentators overwhelmingly argue that the Joe Rogan Experience recreates a kind of contemporary agora, a public square for unfiltered discussion.
He's universally regarded as one of the most prolific conversationalists of the 21st century.
This reputation is built on his willingness to speak to anyone, from astrophysicists and comedians to controversial politicians and fringe theorists, all within the same long-form, unstructured format.
Which allows for both genuine, highly educational moments and, as we've detailed, the widespread dissemination of misinformation.
We've traced the complete narrative arc of Joseph James Rogan Jr., from a self-proclaimed, internally terrified loser who found confidence and direction through the intense structure of Taekwondo.
Through his stint as a cynical but financially successful sitcom actor and an iconic UFC voice.
And finally, to his current status as a media mogul who weaponized the long-form conversation into an unparalleled cultural and political phenomenon.
The influence of this single figure on political outcomes, public health debates, and cultural discourse really cannot be overstated.
His ability to move audiences and attract listeners who are actively turning away from traditional news media fundamentally reshapes how knowledge, ideas, and critically claims are consumed today.
So consider this final provocative thought. His career is a tapestry of contradictions, from endorsing the anti-establishment left with Sanders to the anti-establishment right with Trump.
Yet, after helping Trump secure the presidency, Rogan almost immediately became a vocal, personalized critic of key administration policies, like the Canada tariffs and the El Salvador deportations.
What does this highly personalized form of political commentary, rooted less in party loyalty and more in individual, unpredictable reactions to policy, mean for the future of public accountability when the messenger is also the kingmaker?
It raises a profound question about whether his platform provides a necessary, if chaotic, check on power, or if it simply amplifies volatility in the political landscape.
Thanks for listening.